Hey mate, how you doing?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Been a busy week.
Yeah, it's been a bit wild. Tell me about your busy week.
Yeah, had I suppose we came out of lockdown earlier this week and then started getting so went back to boxing for the first session this week.
Yeah,
Um and I suppose like we've put a lot of work into trying to rebrand into like a channel which is both you and I rather than just the Mark Melbourne TV, which didn't make much sense.
I don't know. I like the
Um
Mark Melbourne TV.
well, at the start, it was kind of like it started with, hey, let's. I think it was your idea to, film or like create some content based off of my
Yeah,
list or of advice for like my younger self, and then
yeah,
we're having a lot of fun. So I think it just evolves naturally. Hey,
yeah. Absolutely. No, it's crazy. So are you back in the office with the restrictions going down, or are you still at home?
I think it's like quarter capacity or something along those lines.
Yeah.
We haven't had to go back in yet, but I'll be back in from Tuesday next week. So
Okay.
which I actually don't mind. I think like a change of environment helps you kind of, switch between work and hobbies and exercise and sort of having that actual change of environment. Like it sends a bit of a cue to your brain telling you
Yeah.
that, it's time to sort of switch up, which is good.
I think
I kind of
everyone
prefer it actually.
you prefer it. You prefer being in the office,
I prefer the change of environment. So
right?
two days in the office is perfect for me.
Yeah, yeah. Do you find yourself like I know there's like two camps, right? There's like one who's way more productive in the office, or one who's less productive in the office. What side are you?
Yeah. I I yeah, I definitely get more work done in the office.
Mm,
Um, I think I get distracted far too easily. And like I when I'm at home, I'll get work done for like, a couple of hours and then I'll get distracted and then I'll find it hard to sort of get back into things.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, that's kind
yeah.
of where I sit.
No, I get that. I get that. It's
Yeah.
interesting you get distracted by like your own things and not like other people.
Yeah.
Because you know that kind of like, what is it? The water bubble. Like everyone stands around the water cooler, or where they, the old days in offices where they used to have like that water fucking bubbler in the thing. Do you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
Like the filter, like almost like when you're
The
at the
dentist or some shit.
doctors.
Yeah,
Yeah, the dentist or the
exactly.
doctors.
Yeah.
You got the cups that dispense.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly
that
right.
one.
There's always one cold or one fucking normal, and they're exactly the same water. It's wild. But yeah, people say usually that, well, I don't know. I felt being like when I was still working 9 to 5, when I worked from the office, the people in the office were my distraction,
Yeah.
which is not a bad thing. I enjoyed, socializing with them, and because I don't get much
Mm.
change of environment regardless, so it was good to have a conversation with them. But when I was at home, I would do the same amount of work in like half the amount of time.
Yeah. I think perfect balance would be headphones in the office.
I do the I honestly I had to do that because I was like, dude, this I don't know how this is taking me so long. I'm getting trapped
Yeah.
into the like the most like the normal kind of way of working. It was doing my head in. So I started putting my headphones on, which people get upset by because apparently noise cancelling headphones means I can't hear them. You'd be surprised, wouldn't you?
Let's say let's say you've got like an intention to learn something, right? Whether it's like picking up a new skill or kind of reading a book or like trying to get like commit a block of time where you're doing really deep sort of focus work. What's your like? How do you kind of what works for you to kind of get you into that state so you don't get distracted? Is there do you have like things that work for you that you can think of?
Um, Headphones on, but nothing playing.
Really?
Yeah, so the headphones I've got a noise cancelling,
Yeah.
and
Even at
there's
home now or
yeah, even at home.
yeah.
Because we got like boys here are not loud at all, so everyone's really respectful and
Yeah.
quiet. But sometimes it's just like the smaller noises that'll catch my attention because I have a hard time. Like right now, under the table, my leg is like bouncing up and down. Just for some reason, I
Same dude.
just active have to be moving. So for me to lock in, it's like yeah, at the moment it's headphones on, nothing playing, just like the noise cancelling feature, which allows me to kind
Yeah.
of hone in. But I remember back in the day, I was really, especially starting to learn trading and investing, having to spend so many hours on the computer. It was like hoodie on. So I'd put the hoodie
Yeah.
on, shirt on my head, pull the zips, and it was just like, used to have a joke called like tunnel vision. Yeah. So
You
it
got
was
your
just,
blinders on, Matt. You got your
yeah,
blinders on, like the dogs, not the
straight.
dogs, the horses. Sorry.
The horses, yeah. Yeah. So it was straight tunnel vision, trying to stay in that for as long as possible. But it takes time, I think,
Yeah.
to kind of build up that ability to spend so many hours in that kind of deep focused or deep work kind of state. What about you?
Yeah. Um, I think yeah, for me, I get really easily distracted. So
Yeah.
uh, I probably yeah, I probably have to like set time aside when like nobody's around,
Yeah.
um, and kind of just yeah, same thing, sort of headphones, usually like lo-fi or kind of music that doesn't have lyrics,
Yeah.
so instrumentals, lo-fi, but kind of like sort of low, or I suppose like sometimes even it sounds weird, but like just playing the same song and repeat.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's like
But
your
without
mind
lyrics,
is
right?
with it, yeah, without
So it's
lyrics,
just
and yeah, just on repeat, because it means your mind is starting to like, sort of go into a pattern, but it's not thinking like new thoughts, like
okay.
your thoughts aren't moving with the change in song, if that sort of makes sense. um
It does make sense.
I mean, that's when I want to like really sort of stay focused. In the office, I slowly got used to just having music on all the time, because
Mm.
there's people, just because of the like offices I've been in and workplaces I've been in, most people always played music, and like my last job, music was really loud all the time, because this one guy just like, it was the DJ of the office, yeah.
Mm.
So he'd pump music in, and like, between him and sort of the salespeople speaking, you just learn to like, you got used to it.
Yeah.
um but I wouldn't say it's my most productive work when I have all those distractions. I'm the kind of guy that I pace when I'm on the phone. So like,
Me too, man. Me too.
yeah.
Far out. I feel like all like when in my previous job, it was a lot of problem solving. So
Yeah.
it was like relatively higher stress and just have to work out how to fix the problem when there is no answer.
Yeah.
Like there's always an answer, but you have to get pretty creative, right? And I swear to you, every time I find like the most like multi-leveled kind of answer, like move this, and this to make this work, it was always while I was
Yeah.
walking.
Yeah.
I look like a
Yeah. Well,
crackpot.
I'm a huge advocate for um like walking meetings. So like, let's say if you have to talk about a certain topic, um, I love the idea of like either getting coffee or just like going for a walk around, like a lake, or just closest walking path, and having those conversations, because I feel like you have a different kind of conversation when there's movement rather than when
Yeah.
you're sort of sitting around. Um, but yeah, personally, if it's solo work, I probably get the most work done when there's not too much music, or minimal music. But with other people, I probably get the most work when it's kind of like active conversations while walking or moving.
Is there something that like specifically distracts you? Like I know for a lot of people it'd be like social media notifications or
Yeah,
personal interactions. Like if you get more distracted at home, like what
yeah.
is it? What is it that's distracting you?
I think yeah, certainly mobile phones. So I went through like tried a whole bunch of different things, like grayscale, which is like it makes all
Yeah.
your apps kind of just go black, so you don't get like you're less drawn to apps that are like colorful and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I've turned off notifications. So like, one of the worst things like you could possibly have is those Facebook chat bubbles, because the Facebook heads or chat bubbles, they they appear on top of all apps. So like,
Right.
regardless of what sort of application you're in, they sort of sit and they float around, and
Wait,
that's always going
is
to
that Samsung? Like the little you mean the like the
yeah,
literally the little bubble thing?
the Facebook heads. I'm sure it's the same on Apple. Like, you've got the option to do. You've probably disabled it.
Maybe. Really? I can have the
Maybe.
little bubble thing? I don't want it,
Yeah, yeah,
but like,
yeah,
maybe. I didn't even know that was a thing on it on Apple. Maybe. Okay.
yeah. Super
Put
distracting. And
that.
then like Twitter notifications, all this sort of stuff. I literally need to put my phone on like do not disturb, phone face down, or just kind of put it in the cupboard away from me. And if I'm doing any work on a computer, I need to have just one document open or just one page open.
Mm,
Um, because if I have multiple tabs, I'll start something, get an idea, start working on something else, and I won't have like I won't have like my focus on the one thing.
yeah.
So
No,
yeah.
I know. It's funny. Were you there in the meeting the other day when Sam had like, oh yeah, you commented on it. He had like two different actual windows open, but he had like 40 tabs on each thing. Dude, that was
Mm,
sending me for a spin. I was like,
mm.
that's crazy, man. How do you concentrate on one thing? And now he obviously has just been diagnosed with ADHD, so that makes
Yeah,
sense for his character, his personality. But yeah,
yeah,
man, like that's to me. I gotta try and have as minimal amount of things open and have them as close, like tabs, have them as close together as possible. Because my brain just thinks in like the most efficient way. It's just like, all right, if I'm gonna go
yeah,
here, then I go here. Or I like to have like two screens, so it's like I have this tab open here. So it's like, and then that's it. But
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, what we're talking about here is like concentration and focus, right? And
yeah,
I think there's, in my opinion, anyway, there's two parts to it. One is the distraction part, which is like your focus, you're productive, and then something takes your attention and you're out of it, and then you have to get back in the state.
mm,
And then the second thing is like discipline. It's like, um, okay, I've been focused. I'm gonna take a break, but I'm gonna like get back into it, um, and just being able to like sort of push through. Like let's say if you only really just sit and focus for an hour. If you're trying to go for like 2 hours, you need to have that kind of discipline as well.
mm.
I think.
Are you an advocate for like, especially when you're getting started, like little breaks? So I think like if
Yeah,
you go
it's
for an hour or two and then have like a quick 15-minute break, for me that
yeah.
you know, I feel like that kind of make builds like the longevity of it. It's like, yeah, you can
Mm,
continue to do that for a long amount of time if you have that break built in there.
mm. I think short breaks are good. Um, having like having like smaller tasks can be like a good way to get things like started,
Mm,
but too much focus on the small task and then you're kind of just being busy and not like getting stuff done. So like let's say for example, let's say like we had an idea for a video, right? And that requires us to write down ideas, script, film, video, record, edit, and so on. I think if you had that task, you can like tackle, if that's like your priority for the day, that should be like the first thing you do before like you kind of do like exercise and all that sort of stuff. Maybe you just get like coffee, you're in the zone, and then like you just do like your um most like high output um activity like as soon as you can,
mm,
because as you go through the day you're making a lot of small decisions which then sort of add up and kind of you get fatigued at the idea of sort of tackling something more difficult. That's why I think like my workouts are better during the day than at night as well. I don't know, where do you kind of sit with that? Like do you have a preference in terms of when you train, or like the order? Like let's say if you have a big day,
mm.
would you kind of have a big emphasis on the morning routine, or do you like to get straight into something as soon as you're
Um,
up?
I definitely do the most important things first. That
Yeah,
you've learnt that from CEOs. They always have the most important meetings in the morning, like first up, or reduce the amount of decisions you have to make before you have highly intellectual decisions to make. But yeah, I try and do all the most important things first, and then it's kind of like the rest of the day is pretty much mine. But when it comes to working out, or when it comes to like a morning routine, I should say, I don't
mm,
really have like, other than like my normal stuff of I have to get up, I have to check the stock market, do my normal trades, check my stops, etc., etc., and then
yeah,
do an hour or two of trying to search for new trades. And then the rest of my day is filled with kind of just consuming knowledge. But the start of it really, I've done all like the priming stuff, meditating in the morning, I'll admit my cold showers have been a little bit off the last couple of months, but usually I'd have a cold shower. I have to get back into that. Yeah, but I don't do, everyone has like these crazy ideas of a morning routine. I think that's just like, I don't know, it's a bit of a sham in my
Yeah.
brain. It's just like, for me, it's just get up and I know what I have to do, so I go and do it.
Yeah.
That's kind of how my brain it's been through all that stuff. So I'm just like, ugh, you know, I know what I need to do. Just go and do it, get it done,
Yeah.
move on. And then the rest of the day is like, like when everyone has their job, like that's my job. The first 4 hours of my day, 5 hours of my day, that's my job right there. That's what I have to do. I have to, you know, check that the money's going all right, make sure I'm making money, check how the stock market is doing, trying to upskill, make sure I'm learning. And then the rest of the day is followed with like life stuff,
Yeah.
It's kind of, I got to try and work out every day or do some form of exercise, go for a walk, mental clarity, really just consume more information, which is really just reading books and, finding random facts. But I'm not sure. I
Yeah.
think that
I
answered your
think
question, didn't it?
Yeah, it does. I think yeah, we're pretty similar like that. We try to put the stuff that requires that maybe is like less fun, but like like you enjoy it, but it takes a bit more like active involvement or more critical sort of thinking, right? You do that early in the day. The
Mm.
workouts, I think for you and me, it's kind of similar. Like we don't see it as like painful. We kind of like enjoy that part of it. So you don't, it's probably something that you can do later in the afternoon or evening and you're not going to be dreading it.
Mm.
Some people dread that kind of thing. And it's just about, your perception. If you find something not fun, it's probably better to do it earlier than to do the fun things first and then
Yeah.
leave the more difficult things for later.
Yeah. Well, your
Yeah.
willpower reduces over the day, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the longer you leave it, the more, the less likely you are to actually do it. So,
Yeah.
like, I know a lot of people have success working out in the first thing in the morning, like when they get up
Mm.
first, especially if, I think they say it is it Atomic Habits? It's like set your
Mm.
clothes up the night before. Or were you talking about it last week as well? I think you said something similar.
You sound really English when you say that. You're like, is that Atomic Habits?
Did I? Dude,
Yeah, a little
why?
bit.
Dude, I don't understand. I didn't mean it at all. You know what else I do? Apparently,
Yeah.
well, I was getting some feedback. Apparently, my voice is
Yeah.
considerably deeper in the podcast.
Yeah.
Like I
That's
actually
that's a
deepen
good
my,
thing.
yeah, but not on purpose. I don't do it on purpose. So it's like
Yeah.
subconsciously, my brain is like, "Ooh, you got to sound like Pierce Brosnan or something like that." I'm like, "What the God
I think
damn?"
I think it's good. They say like at least like people with authority, the ones that speak well generally have a deeper voice, the ones that people listen to,
Mm,
because there's this idea of like I think you actually mentioned it to me. You've got like inflection and is it deflection?
yeah,
I forget the terms, but one you sort of ask a question and you go, what did you think of that, or
yeah.
what did you think of that? Like and two different sort of takes on that. Yeah.
Yeah, or the deeper voice is like a lot of. I learned it from a FBI negotiator. His name's Chris something. He wrote a book.
Chrissy
Yeah, there you
Voss.
go, Chrissy Voss. There you go.
Yeah,
That's a
Chrissy
book.
Voss.
And a lot of salespeople say it as well. The deeper voice is kind of directly correlated with trust.
Yeah,
And spitting facts over here, so trying to be trustworthy.
that's it. let's
But
let's change gears for a second.
yeah,
Now go on. What were you gonna say?
no, that's it. But I don't know. Like I don't try and deepen my voice on purpose. Like I'm now curious. Like, is it subconsciously happening because I'm like trying to perform?
Yeah.
So I'm like really
I
interested in understanding that.
yeah. I think it's it's kind of like that feedback loop, right? So as I suppose when there's a camera on or when you're somewhat performing, right? Like as you said, um, there's that critical voice in your head or the sub vocal voice, and
Mm,
maybe that kind of impacts that. Whereas, so you're potentially kind of like trying to choose the right words, whereas like maybe in a general conversation you care less about what is actually said. So maybe you sort of vary between the highs and the lows
mm.
more often.
I think,
But that's
yeah, sorry. Like a goal for me is to try and get closer to that natural conversation stuff.
yeah.
Like I never want to
Well,
be performing.
yeah. Well, I think you've gotten a lot closer to that, like compared to the first one. Same with me.
Yeah.
And it's just more conversations, I think. Um, but yeah, let's change it up, mate. What actually wanted to talk about on this podcast is I was like extremely fascinated with your run, right? Like the other day, like I saw Dylan's like post of I think it was like 45 minutes or something, and like fuck, all right, these guys are getting back into it. And then I see your your 20 was it 19 or 20 kilometers?
Yeah, 20 and a bit kilometers.
20
Dylan did a
you cracked
16.
20 kilometers then.
Yeah, Dylan did a
Yeah,
16-kilometer run. I don't want to. I don't want to like. He did a 16-kilometer, and then,
that's massive.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's huge. And then I went and did a 20, not to prove him wrong. I didn't actually have the idea of doing a 20-kilometer when I started running.
Mm.
I just
Can you
kept going.
talk us through that? Because I'm fascinated, right? Like when we started running together for the first time, you boys really got me thinking, like, understanding how much your brain plays a part in anchoring what you can actually do. Like, besides physically what you're capable of, your brain plays a bigger part in terms of what you're capable of doing
Mm,
than your actual physical side.
yeah.
But you guys have just taken it to the extremes. Like, what have you? Did you do any runs leading up to this? Like, have you
Nah,
just gone from like
no way. So I've just
what?
recently, I've just recently put on. Well, I've done a couple, but like there were four
Yeah,
kilometers. So
yeah,
like I've just recently put on like anywhere between 8 to 10 kilos.
yeah.
So my runs like kind of during that period or just like now recently were really painful. Like the outside of my
More
ankle.
impact with more
Yeah.
impact with more weight.
Yeah, just the outside of my ankles were hurting. Um, and I think it was also due to the boxing we've been doing, like always backing up and always moving around, and my ankle and joints weren't kind of used to that. So I think I was a little bit injured as well. But
Yeah,
I took a little bit of time off just because it was kind of hurting.
yeah.
But when it comes to like the mental thing you're talking about of like kind of creating, or what I hear you saying is creating our own limits for ourselves.
Mm.
I'll go to it like I'll explain it in two ways. For me, I didn't start out doing a 20-kilometer race, run. I didn't start doing that. Like when I
What
started
was your
running,
What was your intention that morning or
you
that
know where we
afternoon?
run to? I wanted to get to the 5 kilometers, and then I was going to walk
Yeah.
back because I
Okay.
remember previously doing 2 4 kilometers, and my ankles were like one of them I literally couldn't finish. I only did 2 kilometers because it was hurting so much, and then the other
Yeah.
one I like pushed through because it was,
So your goal was to beat your previous runs of 4Ks and just kind of
yeah,
like beat by like 20%. So like
yeah,
5Ks roughly. Yeah.
something reasonable with this like new weight. But I thought, getting a 5 would be all right, and then I'll just walk back and kind of warm down,
All right.
and
So just
then
between us, did Dylan's 16-kilometer run have any impact at that point on your
not really. I mean,
nah.
we're relative. I wouldn't say we're like competitive, like in like a, oh, I have to get better than you. It's like a shit, that's
Let's
possible.
let's push each other
Yeah,
sort of
kind of thing. And
competitive way.
I mean, with his like, I have a more natural kind of body figure for running,
Yeah.
right? And Dylan doesn't, and he can go and do 16. So I guess it's not like a competition; it's a motivation, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So, and Sam is just shredded at the moment, which is ridiculous. So he's maybe
Hang
motivated
on,
me to
let's
get.
let's
Anyway,
let's get back to this. So you
anyway,
you 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 got to the 5Ks.
yeah.
So you got to that. What goes through your brain next?
I
What's your
didn't even
thinking
get to the
process?
5Ks. I got like a 2K in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going. I'm still going. I'm just going to keep running.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep
Yeah.
running. And I had a thing in my head. I was like, I'm just going to run until I throw up, and then I'm going to turn around and run back.
Did you like after those first 2Ks, did you feel like really good? Like something felt a bit different in terms of
Nah,
like your body was
terrible.
just really
Yeah, not good.
okay.
Because
So
I haven't run in a
you
while, so it really fucking hurt.
so,
But
so like hang on, like just to put things into context, 20 kilometers is a half marathon,
yeah,
right? More or less. It
more or
took you
less.
2.5 hours of continuous running.
Very
Most
slow
people,
pace. Very slow pace, by the way. It was like a
regardless,
720 kilometer pace, which is very slow. But yeah,
regardless, right? Um, so 2 kilometers in, you didn't necessarily feel that great,
mm,
but you just something in your mind just went, I'm gonna go I'm gonna beat some PBs. I'm gonna go
yeah.
really far today, or
Here's what it was. It's the stupidest thing, all right. And I have this saying, well, not the saying, but like I was just thinking it was the whole thing. I was like, whatever I think is impossible,
hmm,
I'm like influence my brain or manipulate my brain almost to just think it's easy.
yeah,
And I have this. I don't know if like maybe it's just ignorance, but
mm,
like I honestly believe 20 kilometers. Like during that run right then, I thought 20 kilometers is easy. It's easy.
yeah,
There's literally no chance I can't do it. It's not possible.
mm,
And I mean, let me tell you, 17 kilometers in, I was calling myself a fucking liar because that shit was hard. God damn. But like, I don't know. For some reason, I was able to convince myself, nah, she's easy, boys. Go and get it done. But what I thought was the most interesting is, you know how we're talking about limitations on your brain? The
yeah,
most interesting thing about the whole run is I put like somewhere in that run, I was like, all right, I'm gonna run 10K, turn around, and I'll run all the way back, and that'll be 20K. That's the pretty much the it's double the largest run I've ever done, right?
my week ass mine would have been like every kilometer further I run is going to be an extra further kilometer. I'm going to have to run back that way to get back home.
I don't know. I just maybe I'm fucking crazy, but I just
Yeah,
kept going, and then I've listened to a lot of David Goggins as well. But yeah, the really interesting thing is around the 16, 17 kilometer mark, the last 4Ks, obviously you're going to think, all right, that's your hardest physically and mentally. But
mm,
getting from, 17 kilometers to 20 kilometers, because I now believed in my brain, all right, I'm doing 20 kilometers, I'm now stopping at 20 kilometers. That was so difficult to get to.
mm,
So it's like I'd limited my brain. I was like, 20 kilometers is what I'm possible at. Like, I can't possibly do any more. It's not, I'm never going to get any further than that. Like that.
mm,
When you're 17 kilometers in, like, brain's fatigued, muscles are fatigued, everything's fatigued, joints are
yeah,
hurting. Like, for me anyway. But
yeah,
yeah, because I do truly believe, because I said, all right, I'm going to get that 20 kilometers. And when I believed and when I decided that I'm going to get that 20 kilometers, that's when I started actually failing mentally.
mm,
So for me, I'm very interested in what I want to try and do over the coming months is just run in one direction and then catch an Uber back. But run in one direction as far as I can. Just keep going as far as I possibly can with no actual anticipation of stopping until I can't run.
mm.
I want to see how far I
It,
get.
it's fascinating, isn't it? Like the human psychology
Mm.
and like what you can do, and like each person's psychology has similarities with another person, but you can also have very like individual sort of psychologies, because like in those sort of moments, like I imagine you go through phases. Your brain believes it, and then it starts doubting, and then your brain believes it, and like you go through this cycle. um did you like what I'm sort of interested in knowing is, so like you have this, you start with the belief, right? So you go, I can do 20 kilometers. 20 kilometers is easy, and the rest of your thoughts try to sort of keep up with that belief, right? um you get to your 7 kilometers, or what's the furthest you've run like prior to this? Was it
10.
like roughly
10,
10
10 and
kilometers
a bit. Around 10.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So what I'm interested in knowing is, So you're trying to trick your brain into thinking like 20 kilometers is easy, and you start believing that thought. As you're approaching like 7, 8, 9, 10, is your brain like trying to fight with yourself and go, I've only done 10 before, and like this is does your brain like those thoughts start trickling in, or do you kind of not let that happen?
Oh, not let it. I think maybe it's a little bit of ego and a little bit of chip on my shoulder.
Yeah.
It was like fucking 10K, mate. I'm a bitch. I'm keep going. I don't know. For some reason, I looked at 10K and I didn't think, oh, that's. I didn't satisfy or let myself be satisfied with 10K in that moment right there. Like when I did 10K, and that was a large, like the longest run I've ever done, I was very satisfied. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
But for some reason, that day I was just very not inspired by 10 kilometers. I was like, that's not even
Mm.
like, I don't know. Everyone can, I think honestly, everyone can do 10 kilometers. If you watch your pace and you just
Yeah.
continue on and fight through and, you know, suffer just a little bit, you can do 10 kilometers. It's just, people don't believe it. So I think, yeah, not having those thoughts, maybe it's a little bit of ego, chip on my shoulder, believing, maybe a little bit of ignorance, thinking, mate, she's easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, oh, it helped me
How
that
did you
day.
how did you feel after getting back after knowing you'd done 20 kilometers?
Dude, I was so hungry. This is actually not a joke. This is 100% serious right now. I ordered Uber Eats with a kilometer to go. Dude, I ate, this is what I ate after it.
Yeah.
Uh, I ate two large triple cheeseburger meals. Oh,
Hang on one sec.
I did it
How
fasted,
many
by the way. And I did it
how
fasted with
many
only a liter of water.
holy shit.
Yeah.
How how many wait, did you bring a water bottle or did you stop for water?
I didn't stop for my first water break until 16 kilometers in.
Holy shit.
So on the way back
Um
already.
what was the yeah, what was it like sort of like actually yeah, with the 20 kilometers, do you know how many calories you would have dropped like in that, like roughly?
1600.
1600 calories.
Yeah. Which is, I think, for most people, I don't think it's that much for running a 20 kilometer. Because I know
Yeah.
Dylan himself, he said when he ran the 16, he dropped 1600 calories.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
my body doesn't expend that much or as much energy, which makes
Less.
sense.
Yeah.
Um,
And now back to the meal, the
yeah,
Uber Eats
yeah,
meal. How
right.
many calories was
So,
that?
so within this, but like literally finishing, because I had Uber Eats already on the doorstep when I got back.
Yeah.
First priority was just to eat because I hadn't eaten yet and I was really hungry. So I ate two large triple cheeseburger meals,
Hmm.
right? And I had like a McChicken wrap as well, right? And I also
Yeah.
then ordered after that a chocolate like brownie with two scoops of ice cream and a chocolate milkshake.
I didn't know brownies was the thing at McDonald's, but you know.
It's not at McDonald's. It's a different place. I had to reorder
Okay.
food. I had to order food again,
Yeah.
so I was still hungry. And that was so yeah. Burned six after after the run. I'd eaten all the macas, and I was only 400 calories for that day.
Yeah.
So two like a large triple cheeseburger meal is like 1,000 calories, give or take a little bit. So
I was thinking
essentially,
like what the net calories was around 2000.
yeah. So the net calories I ate was 2,000. So I'd only had 400 calories for that day, and
Yeah.
me trying to put on weight. I was like, why did I just go run 20 kilometers? This is a terrible idea. I'm like, this makes no sense. I'm trying to like literally put on size and mass, and I'm just
Yeah.
burning 1,600 calories. Like,
How
what
how
was
long
wrong
did
with
it
me?
take you to finish that meal?
Dude, it's terrifying. Dude,
Like 6.5 minutes?
like it was so quick. I was
Yeah.
just like, it was like a eating contest kind of thing. You know how
Yeah.
they just like drinking
Yeah.
while they, yeah,
Just don't stop.
yeah, dude, it was insane. But yeah, but I think like your question was, what were you thinking when you finished that, right? Going back to
Yeah.
that a little bit. Thank fuck. Like, God damn. Thank God that's over.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I like,
Was there a sense of like a huge sense of accomplishment, like, and
nah,
also
my
kind of
brain
cracking
doesn't
those
work like that.
anchor?
My brain doesn't work
Yeah.
like that. I'm too harsh. Maybe people have said maybe I'm a little bit too harsh on myself, but I
Mm.
think for me, 20 kilometers, I don't know, maybe I'm silly, but that's just the kind of, it's like, you can go and do that. But I do feel like I had more that I could have given because of
Yeah.
that limitation I put in my brain of 20 kilometers. I feel like if I just said, all right, I'm going to go do 30 kilometers, honestly, I feel like I would have got it done.
Yeah.
So,
So is that because you don't like, is it comes from a place of like you don't want to celebrate too early kind of thing, or like what sort of stops you from, you know,
I think,
because that's a massive achievement. Like most people would, agree that like that's massive to be able to not only surpass your, the furthest you've ever run, but double that, right?
I think my younger self had problems like, had problems with like easily justifying wins.
Yeah.
When I was younger, I did a small thing and I was like, oh my God, now I can go on a 3 week holiday. That's a bit of an exaggeration, obviously. But
Yeah.
yeah, easily justifying or having lower standards was just the norm for me when I was younger. But
Mm.
everything I've learned through Hardcore Headstart, mentored with everything I've read, everything I know, especially kind of on the, and maybe it does tie in. I'm just thinking about this now. Maybe it does tie into raising your standards as well by me learning so much about the top CEOs and founders of the world. Maybe I just try and have higher standards for myself. So even
Mm.
with the podcast, I'm like, oh yeah, it's all right, it's pretty good. I think we're doing a good job, but we could do like, well, for me, I would have loved to do this, this, and this, and this better, like every single time.
Yeah.
And it's really important to definitely celebrate the wins,
Mm.
but it's something I'm still learning,
Yeah.
and
No,
it's
I
maybe not
think
the healthiest, but yeah, everyone has their faults.
yeah. Yeah, I think look, it definitely works for you, like in terms of, and I think it's a good message to have to raise your bar. So I think it's probably like a little yin and yang. I think you can set your standards higher and still celebrate your wins. I don't think it's like one or the other, but I suppose, if your standards are, like, deep down inside you can do a lot better and you want to push your body to its absolute limits until you have, messages from your body or from your mind that tells you, hey, you need to slow down, then that's where you equally need to be, sort of empathetic and patient with yourself. Otherwise that creates like sort of a toxic feedback loop. um but yeah, I think like setting the bar high is important. And like a lot of like limitations are self-imposed. And I think even just this week, right, after seeing your run, I started thinking about this idea, because I always said to myself, like, anyone who does like 5 or 6 days of boxing a week, that's kind of like competition level. Like, there's
Yeah.
no reason to do that unless you're competing. And then I kind of, I came across this video. I started looking into like a fighter's or boxer's schedule and how they would use science to break down proper recovery, because there's a point of diminishing returns of working too hard, too long, being in the gym for whatever, right?
Yeah.
And the way they tackle it is they look at different levels of intensity, so your body actually starts conditioning. But if you train really hard 7 days a week, but you progressively deload and then increase your intensity and decrease your intensity, you're basically allowing for active resting.
Yeah.
So this boxing schedule basically had 12 sessions a week. So there's an AM and a PM, but
Yeah.
like, your AM might be sort of pad work and bag work, and then your PM is like strength and conditioning, so like light weights, but not like super heavy. And then the next day might be high intensity interval training and then sparring. So your Tuesdays is like your most difficult days, and then Wednesdays is back to, sort of like active, resting, so like a low pace jog or whatever. um, and it just made me realize that I've self-imposed this, like even though I've been like fairly fit in my own eyes, I've self-imposed these like low standards on myself because I've just gone, 5 days is real, 6 days is massive, yeah. 3 days a week is good. And like after seeing that, I'm like, people are doing like 14 sessions a week, and I'm sitting here doing 3 sessions thinking it's okay, like so I think there's a lesson in that. You can
Yeah.
push your body as long as it's your priority, you can raise those anchors, and whatever you set as an anchor, your mind starts believing that's your limitations.
Yeah. Nah, Stand and like just to kind of humanize a little bit is like sometimes our standards do fail. Like mine falter. Not that often anymore, but sometimes they still do. Where it's like, oh, I get a little bit lazy, or oh, I don't really feel like doing that. I'm a human being, so sometimes, my standards falter, but it's always kind of catch yourself. And I think you said something the other day of like relating it to working out or exercises or habits specifically. If you miss it one day, make sure you don't miss it 2 days in a row. So I always get back on the horse as soon as possible. So if your
Yeah.
standards fail one day, make sure you raise them back up again and keep that going for as long as possible.
Yeah.
Once people expect and really expect more out of themselves and hold themselves accountable to it, I think a lot of success comes through that.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, so that's exactly right. So if you because your mind will come back to like, okay, that's a valid excuse for me to take a break in my regiment, like training, program that I've set for myself, or you know studying,
Yeah.
or business building. And if you have a plan in place for when you can take some time off, then you're planning for those contingencies. You're planning for what you're going to do when unexpected things come up, because they do come up, right?
Mm.
But you're still on track to your goals because you've planned for that. So that's just as important as pushing through things with brute force, I think.
Yeah. No, I think really most things you do, life, success, it's all a long term game. As
Yeah.
long as you're progressing every day by even small amounts, like 1%,
Mm.
those negative results, those compounding results, will, outperform anything you can do. So
Mm.
don't be, have high standards, but I don't know what the message is. Like have high standards, but
What's
don't be
all right?
fucking mean. Don't be bad on yourself. Like don't be evil on yourself. Don't hate yourself for missing them one day. Just get back on the horse and keep going.
Yeah, I think it's important to set high standards, but make it fun, and make it um, do it in a positive way. So how can you? It's like it's like this balance, right? How can you be the hardest, baddest motherfucker and like set your standards and go harder, go longer, go faster, be stronger, but also be as kind as you can to yourself as you're doing it.
Yeah,
So, if you're too kind and you don't do any work, you're lazy.
yeah,
If you work too hard and you're mean on yourself, you're kind of, you're being too brutal on yourself.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's kind of that balance. What sort of what advice would you give someone who's like, let's say if they haven't done exercise in a long time, or let's say, they used to go on light jogs, but they haven't done a jog or really any proper exercise in a couple of years. What would be your advice if they wanted to get back into
Fucking hell.
jogging or running?
Boys,
It's a tough one.
I'm certainly not a PT. Let me tell you that. Um,
Yeah,
but you know what I think is interesting. I've heard a few people say is like do what you enjoy.
yeah,
You enjoy going for a walk, go for a walk, or depending on what kind of I guess physical ability you have, like play a
mm,
sport. If you enjoy going for a jog, take the dog for a walk. I mean,
mm,
find a hobby that has some kind of exercise portion to it, maybe.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't really know the answer. Again, I'm not a PT, so I don't really want to, and nor am I like the greatest, like most disciplined worker outer of all time. Like that's not me. But
this is like your little disclaimer. This is not training and and fitness
dude,
advice.
no way.
Okay.
But I think everything you need to do, if you're thinking about it for the long term, it needs to have longevity, which means you need to enjoy it, which means you need to, you know, it needs to make sense to you. So don't start too fast. Don't start too hard. Don't go, if you haven't done any exercise, probably don't go out and do a 20 kilometer. Like you're probably going to be turned off running forever. Let me tell you that. So if your goal is longevity, your goal is to become healthier, your goal is to just exercise more,
Yeah.
start enjoying exercise. It's the same as books, books are the key to knowledge, but no one likes reading books. Start reading what you enjoy or start reading what you love until you love reading.
Yeah.
And then once
I
you
like
love it,
that.
it builds into other things.
So your message there is to find a way to make it enjoyable first, and then you can at least establish the habit. All right.
Yeah, I think that's like a better message than, I don't know, like the other message is stop being a bitch.
David Goggins style, yeah. Like,
Yeah. I mean, suffering is a test. Suffering is a part of life. That's what
yeah,
Goggins says. So get to it. It's yeah. You do need to understand your personality. Like, are you going to relate to that? Go get it, go hard, etc., or are you going to relate to like more longevity, enjoying it? For me, it's kind of like both because I'm weird. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's
It's
it.
definitely like it's sort of in that process too. Whether you are interested in your psychology or not, you learn more about yourself and what motivates you, what doesn't motivate you. So I
Yeah.
think if you through trial and error, you'll learn what works for you, and no set particular ways is going to work for everyone, but you can learn from people who've achieved what you've achieved, and then sort of see. I think this is like my sort of take on it. Like, if you're trying to if you set a goal for yourself, find a few different people who've achieved that goal but in different ways, and then try different approaches, and copy the approach that you think works for your personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess like goes without saying, you really can. Yeah. Don't put limitations on the old mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like honestly, there's so many stories out there, and a lot of people say if someone in a similar position to you has done it, then it's possible, which means you must be able to do it. So don't put limitations on your mind. You can really do anything. I don't care if you're 200, 300, 400, 500 pounds. It's going to be harder, especially on an exercise journey, but it doesn't mean it's not possible. So without getting too motivational and soppy, but like, yeah, I don't like, I'm in decent shape. So 20 kilometer for me is not like way out of the realm. It's just
Yeah.
hard, but yeah,
I
I think
think
it goes with
that's
everything.
that's a topic in itself, right? A lot of limitations or anchors are deeply ingrained to a time that you've had with that particular goal that you've set. So whether it's running, you could probably trace it back if you think long enough about when when you've set that limitation for yourself and the reason why you've done it. So let's use running as an example. If I were to set an anchor for myself, naturally it would be the furthest I've run previously, or it might be the last time I consistently ran, and how long like I consistently did something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think understanding your own psychology, whether it's around diet, exercise, business building or habit building, it all comes back to the way your psychology ties back to how you kind of view things, and the first time you kind of experienced it. Yeah.
I think with like exercise specifically, or maybe a lot of things as well, is like when you have that anchor, or you understand that anchor, make sure the anchor is not like suffering or it's not pain. There's a difference if it's injury or risk or potential damaging results, but if it's just suffering or pain, that should not be an anchor.
Yeah.
You know, that's a barometer for you to keep going. You know, push through that because you probably know this. You would know this. How do muscles build, right?
Oh, well, they break down, they repair, they grow stronger. They break down, they repair, they grow stronger.
You know, goddamn, if that's not the whole metaphor for life, I don't know what is. So, what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. Anyway,
You know, mate, I didn't know you had such a voice.
I'm
We're
gonna
gonna,
listen.
we might have to soundbite that. You know what? Like I've noticed like this through conversations with with girls and with my partner, right? Is or not even with girls in general, like some guys as well. Um, Depending on like with discipline, with pushing your boundaries and setting higher standards.
Yeah,
Some people approach it from you know purely on feelings, and then some people try to block out feelings completely, and they go, this is logical. I can do this. I can whatever, and they switch off that side of the feelings.
mm,
And I realized like for example, like with Jenny, if she can get her feelings around like whatever it is to be more positive, she's going to be able to stick it out a lot further and like push herself a lot harder if she feels positive about that certain thing, and that's more important than actually pushing itself. I feel like for her,
mm.
um, whereas like for me, I kind of just shut down. Like I'm like I put illogical things in my mind. I go, if I don't run this far, I'm gonna have cancer at 40 or something
Yeah.
like that. Nah, not like
That's intense, bro.
nah, not exactly that. But
I
I used
understand
to,
dire consequences. Yeah,
yeah, I used to like sort of, set these arbitrary things like, if I don't run this 5 kilometers, I'm not getting that PlayStation 2. And like this is like self-imposed like fake beliefs.
yeah. So you know what I was saying younger, like I justify things easily. Like that would be a
Yeah,
thing. Like if I'm like, oh, if I don't run 5 kilometers, I'm not getting PS2, and then go get the PS2 if I don't run 5 kilometers. So it's
yeah.
like, like you're not holding yourself accountable to anything. So it's important to not have that. That's funny. But yeah, with the Jenny, like, well, with your like relationship, I'm not sure if you're comfortable
Yeah.
talking about it. Is that something
No, I can talk about it.
is that something you push Jenny towards? Like when it comes
Yeah,
to creating a positive environment and something?
yeah, I have the approach of pushing her until she feels uncomfortable, but then equally after that's kind of done, I show her like it doesn't have to be like that every time, but
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like a let's let's break down your limitations, tie something positive, tie some positive associations to breaking those limitations, and then being easy on yourself on other times. So like, if your ankle doesn't feel right, your knee doesn't feel right, you don't have to push through that every single time. But if you feel good this time, then let's kind of break those, self-imposed beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like an example of that was we kind of talked about this idea of like running a lap around the Maribyrnong, which for context is 5.5 kilometers,
Mm-hmm.
right? In one continuous, like with no breaks. And, for her, doing that, like we both agreed, like maybe around 12 weeks, but even then she's like, I need a year to be able to run 5.5 kilometers, right? I'm like, no chance, right? Like you can do this in 12 weeks easily, right? And then there was this
You're a
we did
nice
one
man.
run.
12 weeks. God
I
damn.
know that's pretty generous, right?
Yeah.
um
Come on,
but
Jenny.
based on but based on where she was at, like she she got to that point where she's like, okay, like we'll do 12 weeks. I'm not going to guarantee it, but at least mentally she was like, okay, like let's try this, right? If I said to her 4 weeks, she'd just laugh in my face and go, yeah, this is not happening, right? um but then we do a run 1 week, right, where she does half of it, which is like 2.2 k's, and then she has to have a break. But the following week I said to her, look, let's do this for your little sister. Let's do this for like yourself, limitations. Let's kind of push until you can't anymore. And then we got really close to doing a full lap, and I just said, "Look, we may as well, right?" And she finishes that, and I said to her, "What changed from this week compared to last week? Did you actually get twice as fit as you were last week?"
Mm.
And I go, "Look, it's physically that didn't change, right? Your
Yeah.
body can't have changed that much since last week." And that kind of made her understand that it was mostly mental. And
Yeah.
I learned that from you guys when I hadn't done a lot of runs for a long time, and like suddenly we did 6Ks, and then the week after we did like 8Ks, and I'm like, we're doing this in 3 sessions.
Yeah. No,
So
we don't play. Yeah, we don't muck
we
around.
got large.
Yeah, we go real large. Yeah, no, that's why I said before, like everyone can run 10K.
Yeah.
Like, ability or not ability, but normal kind of scenarios permitting, everyone can really run 10K. She's just about understanding how your brain works and being comfortable with suffering.
And it comes with the more strongly you believe that you can't do something, right? Once you break that limitation, the amount of confidence that comes with that and how much that unlocks your ability to tackle difficult tasks next time, like
Yeah.
stuff like once you go into uncharted territory again,
Yeah.
that unlocks this self-confidence that I think a lot of people struggle with, right? Like there's so many people I speak to, I'm like, let's go for a jog, and like, yeah, I don't jog, right? And you're like, what do you mean you don't jog?
Yeah.
But yeah, like whatever the limitation it is on yourself, it's always worth kind of making yourself a bit uncomfortable, because with being uncomfortable comes growth.
Well said. I'm not even going to add anything. That was perfect. That was a ripper. Yeah. No, that's it. That's it. Hey, I guess changing topic a little bit, but we touched on a previous of like we're rebranding and stuff.
Yeah.
Man, what's going on? Tell me. Tell the people.
So with the launch of our new channel, Daniel and Mark.
Wow. How'd you come up with that? How'd you come up with it?
I think we just made a list of all the possible names that we could have had, and that one just seemed the most accurate.
Dude, there was, what I think was closer. It was a close second. Was Fiery Goat.
And Fiery Duck.
Fiery Duck. That was it. Fiery
Duck.
Holy shit, man! That made me laugh so hard.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Well, like there's all these really innovative tech names, and like I think we've gone full circle now.
Yeah.
Simple is more creative sometimes.
Absolutely. So yeah, we've got instead of all the content being put on your Mark Melbourne TV channel, it'll now be on its own. Daniel and Mark. That is literally the channel name. Nothing exciting. The Spotify will be the same, right?
Yeah, that's right. So we'll have links both on Spotify and YouTube, so you can find the relevant channels depending on whether you prefer to watch this on YouTube or Spotify. And it just made sense for us to rebrand because it means that we both can work on the channel together. It means that we can have other guests on the channel, and pretty much this is a weekly podcast that we're doing together anyway. So it didn't really make sense to have it just Daniel or just Mark. It'll be good.
Seems like we're taking it a little bit more seriously, eh?
Yeah, I think it's way more fun to do something with with somebody else rather than doing it on your own. So
yeah,
like that's always been something I wanted to do with my own channel anyway, which was to get more people on. And I find it's a lot easier if you've got kind of two co-hosts, and it opens up the possibility of bringing on other people, which we've already started talking about as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're excited about doing all of that kind of stuff, and I think again we're enjoying it. Is that if that's still the case with you? I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it, and yeah, fucking do things you enjoy, boys. That's it.
Yeah.
That's
No, it
it.
was a good. It was a good one. Thanks for your time, and hopefully, you guys have been enjoying it, our podcast.
That's exactly right. All right, wrap her up.
Back her up.
Oh, you can do that. Hold on, the boys here at the house can't do that shit.
No one can do it.
They can't do that. You can do that shit good.
We got good tongues.
Oh. What that tongue do?
Hey.
All right. Goodbye.
Cool.